Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today.
Ivan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
I first heard of your story, I can't remember now, it was either through somebody at work and then I'd obviously done some work with the Firefighters charity. In fact, no, it came through Johnny, didn't it? It came through Johnny from Willingwood Watches.
Yeah.
Johnny always seems to be able to hunt out some of these incredible people that have gone through some massive adversity. And then, as I was sort of delving down further into your story, I started looking at your career, and then obviously I learned of you being a firefighter as well. And then I delved into the world of TT. Now, I've had 4 bikes in the past. I am not even going to remotely pretend. I suppose that theoretically we're on the same spectrum. In theory,
they've got 2 wheels.
They've got 2 wheels. Yeah. Probably in the same classification that I'm on the same spectrum with my daughter on a pink bicycle. But this is a whole another world of speed and intensity and expectation. And just hearing you this morning speaking about USN and the pasts of it and the origins of TT and how the competitions get started. So I've got pages full of notes in front of me. I'm sure I will go in a million directions. I will try and keep some sort of thread, and hopefully we'll drag each other back on track.
That's okay, yeah.
As we wander down rabbit holes and return back. So, 7-time international race winner, amongst which you won the Isle of Man TT lightweight title in 2015, 2016. Now, when was the first time you actually started riding?
Oh, but riding, I suppose, would be when you was maybe 2 or 3. Dad bought me a little QR50, and so a little 50cc kids bike that you put 2 or 3 year olds on. And I rode that for probably...
Your dad must have been into riding.
Oh yeah, Dad used to race. He used to race sidecars, though. Really, he used to grass track race, which is oval racing on grass, and then he drifted towards sidecars. But when I was growing up, he was a sidecar driver.
So, for anybody that's unfamiliar with sidecar driving, is that, as it sounds, it's the way you got the motorbike and the sidecar, and the person that didn't they climb in and out of it to hold the balance?
Yeah, the passenger would climb in and out of it, whereas the driver obviously is throttle, brakes, gear changes in that department.
They still do that? Does those competitions still happen?
Yeah.
Because
British and World Championships. They're racing around the Isle of Man as well. There's 2 sidecar races around the Isle of Man every year.
Do you think is it as popular now that so many people are into? Can't remember the last time I saw a sidecar. People don't use them on the road anymore.
No, very rarely on the road really, but...
Yeah.
Today's episode was once again brought to you by Willingwood Watches. With the tagline, once forgotten, now reborn, every single watch has 100 years of firefighting history in it. They take an original Merryweather brass firefighter's helmet worn by firefighters in Britain in the 1920s and melt it inside every single Willingwood watch. All of the craftsmanship is carried out in the heart of London, and they are proud to lock in the legacy of the brave firefighting heroes in every single timepiece. I think one of my favourite things about these watches is the fire hose straps. Now, these have gone from landfill to effectively luxury now. They receive fire hose from a massive amount of fire services from all around the world, which has come to the end of its life. The majority of the fire hose around the world is unfortunately ends in landfill usually. They clean the hose, repurpose it, and sew it into the luxury watch straps themselves. I always wear the red one, but when you get your watch, it comes with a series of different ones you can get. You can explore the full range of upcycled straps on their website, and you can see the link in the episode notes. If you head over to their website, you'll be able to check out the Jubilee, the Triumph, the Valiant, the Bronze, and the Chivalrous. All of those watches are available right there, and you can spread the cost of these over 3 to 6 months interest free. So for the pulse of the fire service right there on your wrist, head over to willingwoodwatches.com and take a look.
Yeah, in racing world, they are a standalone sort of event.
Yeah.
I suppose if you're into them, you're into them, and then you follow that road. And I say you can do British Championships, World Championships, you can race around the Isle of Man, Southern 100, all the big road races.
Bloody hell. So your dad was big into that.
Yeah.
Was he a rider, or was he a sidecar?
No,
jump arounder.
No, he was a driver.
Okay.
So he was a builder, because again, you're going back to 80s, 90s, where you could still make stuff in your garage at home.
Okay. So he's very much DIY person.
Yeah, DIY person, make something, go and race it, and that's how it was like. But
So you from Lincolnshire?
yeah, from Lincolnshire. I was from a little village about 10 miles away from where we are now, called Bardney. Born and bred there till a couple of years ago, and then moved into...
Because there's a lot of flat ground around here.
Yes.
I bet it's a really beautiful environment
Yeah.
for this sort of thing. I remember reading a book, Bounce, where they talk about the greatest ping pong champions all came from one street in the UK.
Right.
Because just so happens that they had an old ping pong sort of hut that no one ever used in before, and it was just that you're a product of your environment.
Yes.
And I wonder if there's a connection there between the fact that you became, the great talent that you are in the racing world, but would the same Ivan still be here if he and his family were from London, for example?
Yeah.
And you don't have that space, and you don't have that going out with your mates on your bikes from the age of 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, well, I would say that's got to be some sort of correlation.
It's like a subtle factor somewhere.
Yeah, because, again, top TT runners, you've got Gary Johnson, who's fairly local, Guy Martin, who's fairly local, Steve Plater, all top racers back in the day.
All came from a similar sort
Lincolnshire,
of area.
within 30 miles of each other.
There also might be an argument as well for the fact of, like you say, you feel a greater level of inspiration because you're near somebody who has done something like that. There's always saying, like, if you can see it, you can be it. So if you know someone locally that's gone and done something you've done, it almost blazes a trail for you to think, well, maybe I could do that.
Of course you
can.
can.
Take it.
Well, yeah, it's the same with everything, isn't it? I can't kick a bag of wind about and play football or anything, but...
but if your dad were a footballer,
no, that's
think,
what
you know what, I could see myself doing
that's what you would get brought up doing. You'd go, let's go for a kickabout. That's when you was in the real early ages, where my real early ages were messing about with a little QR50.
That's what I'm saying. So, when people say about this nature-nurture side of, is talent born or is it developed? I'm like, maybe a bit of both. I used to do a lot of, I still lift weights and stuff now, but I used to do a lot of lifting, and I always used to say, look, the strongest person in the world will probably never lift a weight in their life. And what I mean by that is, he's probably some guy on a South African farm who doesn't even know what weightlifting is.
Yeah.
But you would drive past a field and you'd see him lifting up a freaking side of a tractor.
Yeah.
They are just someone that is just colossally strong, and then they'll never find their way into it in the same way that the greatest footballer or the greatest genetically the best rider may never find themselves. They might just work at Tesco's.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
all the things have to fall into place for you to complete that journey.
So when you were 3 and 4, I mean, people have only been walking for a couple of years by this time. Did you ever even have like a normal bike before, or did you just throw you straight on a...
No, I would say I'd have like push bikes and stuff, messed about going along that line. But say my little QR50, I used to belt about on that, and I can remember, or I've been told, that I used to go to the woods and belt about in the woods, but I had a big crash in the woods and scared myself and didn't ride one for 2 or 3 years after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just big, hit that, don't know how that happened, not doing that again sort of thing. And then...
Because it is quite, even just when, because I've had a couple of crosses, but literally 125s and 250s, and I honestly only rode them off-road maybe for the first 6 months I had them. Yeah. And then again, like you say, they just scare me. You only need to go up an incline and not commit fully to it, and then it comes down on top of you. Yeah. Or, or if you hit a bump in the wrong way and the suspension isn't as forgiving and it really thumps you and you smack your face on. Yeah. I've done things like that and then gone, I've kind of gun shy. I've been like, no, I'm not really into that.
Motocross and stuff like that, obviously, we've done that previously as well. Scare me.
Yeah.
Massively scare me. But because everything in your head has to be that right when you commit to a jump. Yeah. If one little thing's wrong, which is only maybe because I didn't do it as a kid growing up and just think, we'll get one of them, we'll have a go at that.
Yeah.
And then you go to your first motocross track and be able to go like hell for the first couple of laps, then you're blown out your arse after that, and then...
Because also it's very physically exhausting.
Massively physical.
I've done first aid on a few things where a lot of firefighters have part-time jobs and stuff like that, and I've been asked, a friend of mine runs a medical company, and he said, we need a couple of extra lads on this motocross thing, and you go there, and the whole world is so strange because everyone's rocks up in their caravans and the big expensive bikes on the back of it. But in terms of like professionalism, with the greatest respect, there was like a hut with some bandages in it, and maybe some painkillers of some form. But I mean, in that day itself, I think 2 people broke their collarbones, and one person was stretched off. But I think it was just a mild concussion, and that was just like, I don't know enough about the world, but it didn't seem notorious. It wasn't a big competition. It was like, we haven't got a chance to go to a competition recently, so we're just going to put an event together. Yeah. 50 or so riders turned up, and it felt like carnage. And I just think it must be so expensive as well, because the bikes, like between everything, there was 17 things getting changed on the bike. Yeah. There was so much stuff, because so much of it's like sacrificial, isn't it?
Yeah, but again, drifting into racing world, you change something and you go quicker in the next session, what you've changed is relevant. It's psychological.
Oh, 100%. And I know when we come from that sort of, because it's the same aspect with Formula One, if you race a lap and you've come back and you've got a quarter of a tank full left, you're like, well, you put too much fuel in it because you're carrying too much weight.
Yes, exactly.
Or, if something's over-engineered, you're like, well, there's too much weight of that sort of that certain composite in there. Can we have something that's lower grade and even just a couple of grams lighter? Yeah, so everything is the perfect bike should maybe fall apart at the finish line. Yes. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so like the perfectly tuned engine, if you was doing a one-off event, blow up as it's cooling down. Because then you've got it to an extreme position that it survived its 4 laps, it's come in, it's blown up, so that's fine.
So thinking back then, how does that correlate to the human being? Because the human being shouldn't fall apart at the finish line. When you said you had this first little scary moment in the woods, do you recall what it was? Or did your parents ever tell you?
No. It'd just be losing control and clipping a tree instead of it's going from fun messing about. Oh, this is good laugh doing this, belt up and down or whatever, and then have a bit of a moment and then hit a tree. You're like, oh shit, okay, right. I'm not really into that anymore. You can put that back.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because small mistakes, and whilst I don't want to downplay anything, small mistakes in a GLI, I used to play ice hockey. Small mistakes there are lower. I mean, they're high impact, but they're compared to the speeds you're travelling at, they're low impact. Yeah. Whereas a small mistake, even on a 50cc, I mean, how fast would a 50cc go?
No, it would probably do 25, 30 or whatever. And
fast enough?
Oh, yeah, you're a little lad or whatever.
You hit a wall at that, you could kill a child.
Yes, easily.
And I'm not trying to discourage people from riding, but it's a scary reality in terms of what can the body sustain when you're hitting things at these speeds.
Yes.
Have you got a picture of it?
Well, I'm just having a look then. I think I've got a picture of it somewhere. No, we'll go with a haven't. We've got some early photograph photo, because Dad obviously was a sidecar man, used to make...
Wow, God, what they look like back then.
Well, no,
you have a sibling, or is that a friend? Or
No, that's me driving it, and then my mate Stephen Burks is a passenger. But that's something Dad will have made because he was a sidecar rider, so...
Yeah.
Make stuff like that, and that's what we belted about in the garden on.
So you're an engineer by trade now as well. Yeah. How did you develop into that? Because I know we're going to get on to joining the fire service and stuff. But what jobs did you have in that sort of early period of life?
Early period of life. So, again, drifting into... When you was 13, I used to work at a local joinery firm. Yeah. Just in the village. Just Barry and Lynn New Love used to work around their place on Saturdays, then some summer holidays and bits. And it's bloody quite good that you used to earn a bit of pocket money and stuff. So I bought my first motocross bike through money I earned on my own. And on top of that, I used to have a car washing business on the side. So I used to have people come round and deliver cars to mum and dad's house, wash them on the drive, and then they just come pick them up later on through the day or whatever.
God, that's wicked, isn't it?
But that was enough money, me messing about doing that, to buy myself a motocross bike. And then you sort of value money, you value what you can get.
I was going to say, there's so many sort of subconscious things that you develop there, between accountability, your ability to sort of shape your own future as well. Because if you want something, you can earn the money to get it. You know, we've both got young children now. Whilst I can see the abuse that could take place in having people work for you who are very young, and you don't treat them right, or you don't pay them at all, or you just bully them or abuse them or whatever. But in my personal experience, maybe I was told I was a dickhead every now and again, and I might have had a clip round the ear if I broke something because I'm a stupid little kid. Yeah. But on the whole, I would not have changed that. The development that I got from having those jobs at 11, 12, 13 years of age. I worry that they're not going to have those anymore, and how we're going to develop without it.
I completely agree, really. As kids are growing up now, bless them, obviously very computer-based, very phone-based. I mean, just them things, not that they're complete negatives, but if they get reading the wrong thing or looking at the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, then it could lead you down the wrong path.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't get my first mobile phone until I was 16, and that was when I got a moped going to work.
Yeah, mine was just a basic Nokia. You know,
Yeah,
you could text
massively
with it.
Nokia. Like carrying a big folder around in your backpack. But you thought it was cool because that was a mobile phone, you could ring someone.
Yeah, and I appreciate, like you say, it's good that they have access to all this information, but I think what we're learning now is that we're not starving for information, we're starving for wisdom. You can have all the information has never been so accessible before.
Yeah.
You know, the devices that sit around us now, we could find the answer to anything that's happening in our world.
Yeah.
Would it empower us? People always say like information is power. I say no, information is potential power.
Yes.
But you still need to take action with it.
Yes.
Kids have got access to everything now, but what are they doing with it?
Yeah.
If they're doing nothing with it, then we know lack of information wasn't the problem because now they've got all the information, and what are we doing with it?
Yeah, it is mental, really.
Anyway, we digress. So take us back to, you'd had that spook, 4 years of age. When did you not get back on the horse? You know, when did you get back on the bike, I suppose?
Well, I suppose it would be probably 2 or 3 years later. It would be just messing about, like I showed that photograph, the little sidecar that Dad built because he was a sidecar man. So you used to have them growing up. My first real experience, probably, on a bike doing completely my own thing would have been Speedway. So I started Speedway riding when I was 11 or 12.
Is that the lapping drifting style?
Yeah.
Just on a,
so we do a 4-lap oval on shale tracks. And we had quite a successful position to be in. We had enough land around us that the landowner let us just build our own speedway track. So we had a bike, so we could. Because
you need a lot of space for it.
Oh yeah, we want a full size one. So you're talking probably 190 yards, but that meant we could go mess about if you wanted a couple of.
Because you churn it up.
Oh yeah,
you will fully churn it up.
But then again, Dad being how he was, a maker and creator of things. We used to rake it all in ourselves, like they do on proper speed tractors. He used to have a Ford Capri at the time, so it would be towing this rake around on the Ford Capri to drag it out. Then when you need a bit more weight on the Ford Capri rake, you would sit on it. So 2 or 3 of us sat in it, raking it all in.
Down and he pulls it around.
Yeah, just pulled it around. But I had probably 3 or 4 years of doing that. Wow. And we progressed from a 125 when we got going a bit.
So did you just have a bunch of mates would come and do it with you, or did people from further afield come and compete on it?
A few probably mates come down, but they didn't have bikes. Used to come and mess about on sort of my bike. Wow. And
that's a massive commitment from your dad, though, to do that just for yourself and stuff. Be able to practice on it. Jesus. So when we look at a speedway bike, they seem very light in front end, lower in the back. There, you would never ride that on a road, would you?
Oh no, got no brakes.
Oh, they got no brakes.
No gears, no brakes.
Okay, I didn't know that. So, how fast did they go?
Probably because they're only running 380, 400 metre tracks in this country.
That's what I mean. You're only doing about 50 metres before you got to take your first turn or something, haven't you?
Yeah, you're probably talking 60. 80 maybe, it all depends on grip, and there's so many variables in getting a bike set up so it'll grip right, because tracks are in different conditions due to weather, due to dampness, due to if you're riding the inside curb on a track, you'll be travelling 50 yards less a lap than the lad riding around the dirt.
A quick reminder for all of our listeners of our monthly giveaway. Now, as part of our partnership with Hikes, Rosenbauer and Tallyman, we give away that little bit extra to our podcast listeners every single month. You can get 2 personalised BA tallies. These are hardware and they've got your own name on them, they've got your own service number on them, and they have the podcast logo on the back. And then for the juicy stuff, Hikes give away a pair of their incredible footwear. And some of the stuff is pretty expensive stuff, to be honest with you. We try and switch it and change it every month. We are guided by the gods of Hikes to make sure we are giving you exactly what you need for that time of year. So it might be boots, it might be trainers, and then once every quarter our good friends over at Rosenbauer are giving away their Boros B5 firefighter boots as well. So to be in with a chance to win, jump over to our social media platforms or YouTube, where you need to tag a member of the emergency services in the post, be following our page, and you will be in with a chance to win at the end of every single month. Back to the show.
I always thought that, similar to how you set up on like a 100, 200 metre, 400 metre race.
Yes.
Do they do like who decides who goes in the middle? Is it you do qualifying in laps? Or?
No. During a meeting, so if it's a league meeting, gates 1 and 3 are the home team, gates 2 and 4 are the away team, and then they swap. So each heat, then it'll go away team 1 and 3. Okay. But on the individuals, when you get to Grand Prix level, then they will pick their gates. When you sort of get into the final positions, they will pick the gates.
Okay.
But you'll know from the cleverer people watching the event which gate is the best to get the start. So if gate 1 is performing the best, obviously the fastest people will pick gate 1 because they want the quickest.
So is that just down to the condition of the track?
Massively.
So how much variation would you put into the bike? Would you?
A massive amount in speedway, because again,
in terms of changing the wheels or changing the weight, or what calibrations would you make?
You can adjust tyre pressures, which would be changing contact patch, but especially on 500s, which is what they race, you need to find grip. But you don't want too much grip that they pick up and square up and fire into the outside fence. Yeah. So it's a fine line, but when you're doing it, you'll be able to feel if you've got enough grip. And you can overjet them, you can change the gearing, you can alter your position on the track. Obviously, if there's more grip going around the outside, you've got 50 yards further to travel, so you need to run different gearing to the man on the inside. Yeah. But the man on the inside will be spinning up loads more than you on the outside. Honestly, it is a bottomless pit of setup on speedway bikes. A bottomless pit.
I remember I've got a few friends that have got farms and all this sort of stuff, and I remember we were going to do some shooting, and we said we'll take the quads over a couple of fields and we'll do some shooting. And he had to go and get the guns out because I don't know what I'm doing with guns. I don't know what I'm doing with guns. I don't know what I'm doing with quads. But the quads is the less dangerous theoretically. So he said just pull them out into the yard and just warm them up or whatever because it's a cold day. Yeah. So I remember bringing them out. And the tyres felt really flat, like I could push my hand down in them. Yeah. So I was like, tyres are a bit flat. I know, I'll pump them up. So I just pulled his compressor out and pumped all the tyres up. And he got on it, he was like, you pump my tyres up? I said, yeah, you know, I'm good like that. I like helping out. He's like, fucking idiot. I says, we need to deflate them now. I says, we'll be all over the shop. He says, they want to be, like you're saying there. You could literally... push the damn thing, and I was like, dude, really? and then that was the first time I'd ever really had that. But yeah, when you're driving across those fields like that, you really want maximum contact. Yes. Whereas if it's nice and hard like that, he says you just spin around everywhere. You won't go anywhere. You get no traction.
Well, it's the same as you get drifting into road race world and TT world. Like you'd be altering tyre pressures by a PSI. Really? And that would be a massive field difference. Yeah.
So in a controlled environment, and I know we're not into Formula 1, but in my very limited knowledge, I thought they have, because it's all on solid roads and all this sort of stuff, and it's a closed environment because it's a closed circuit, they're able to get all that feedback really, really quickly and really, really easily in my limited knowledge, and they're able to make those small calibrations. Does it work the same, let's jump ahead forward to when you were, racing at this semi-professional level. How much feedback would come from the bike? How much of it is your feel? Do you have a team that works with you?
Oh, yeah, massive team, really.
And there's the computer feedback, and is there all of that going on?
But again, it was only in the last sort of couple of years that we had feedback. We had suspension sensors and engine sensors to know what was happening. Yeah. But then it's quite good then, because you'd come in and say, oh, this ain't right, that ain't right. Now, is that you just meshing your head up? Yeah. Or is it actually doing that? Yeah. Because you could say, oh, it's doing this, go out for 2 more laps of practice, and come in and say, well, that's a load of shit, that didn't work. But then they said, well,
they could go, oh, we've changed it, and they changed nothing. And you go, yeah, it's loads better. We didn't change anything.
Well, exactly. my mechanic, Danny, so every year we would go to the TT with the same setup as we finished last year's TT. So obviously we had a good year or whatever. Yeah. So we finished last year, so we'll go with the same setup. And I would go out first practice and say, oh, it isn't doing this, it isn't doing that. And he didn't tell me this till after we got to where we are now, retired from the sport. He would fake some adjustment, say, right, go out, 2 more laps, we've adjusted that, it's fine. Yeah. And you come in and say, oh, yeah, that's loads better, thank you. Yeah. And he hadn't changed anything.
Give me a second, mate, let me just put a bit of special sauce in it. I'm going to tweak here, I'm going to tweak there, I'm going to shaky this, I'm going to add some lubricant to nothing, and then
it's
off you go.
It's getting your head programmed to the speed again, because obviously the Isle of Man is sort of a standalone event regards speed and what you're racing through and around. Yeah. So for your head to be programmed to 180, 190, 200 mile per hour in certain places, having not done it all season, you've done 160, 170 at like a short circuit, but them little things, and again, processing speed, you're like...
So in terms of, we talk about distance and speed there, in terms of the races you developed in and the races you'd sort of come up in, what is the standard circuit look like in the UK? What sort of distances will people be travelling? What speeds are they travelling? How long does it take? So I'm looking at some of your trophies, and it was, I was saying like, bloody hell, an hour or so riding. You're like, oh no, something longer than that.
Well, no, I say that's in the Isle of Man. So in England, there is no road racing.
Okay.
There's short circuit racing.
Why?
So, I don't know. There would be...
It's illegal and dangerous, or they want to discourage street racing?
Maybe, possibly. I don't really know. There used to be a road race at a place called Oliver's Mount, and it's closed down recently at the moment, but it was the only one, really, and it was, in my head, more of a short circuit than a road race. Although you was race on public roads, you can go to a cafe at the top if you wanted to in the summer holidays or whatever, but it isn't like the Isle of Man.
Okay.
So most circuits in this country would be 2.5 miles round, I would say, maybe 3 miles round.
How long would it take to cover that?
Oh, about a minute 40. Minute 30, minute 40.
Because these aren't straight, you know what I mean? I mean, there's a couple of straights, but, you know, especially when you look at the Isle of Man circuits, there's a hell of a lot of twists and turns. These are, you know, my very feeble mind, when I think of racing, I go, oh, Donington. Well, big straight and a couple of corners.
I say Donington would be 2.5 miles round, I would say, and that would be a minute 30, minute 40 a lap.
Yeah, but there's some big, long straights in that, whereas when we convert that into the Isle of Man, when was the first time we ever went to that?
I will have gone to watch my friend Guy at the time. Well, he's still my friend, really. Go right back. In 03, I was racing Supermoto.
Okay.
So we drifted from Speedway, had a couple of years off, then went Supermotoing.
What's the difference? What's Supermoto?
Supermoto is basically a motocross bike with slick tyres on.
Okay.
So you run 17-inch wheels in a motocross bike, stiffen the suspension up, tune them heavily, and then you've got a Supermoto bike.
And what courses would they run?
They would run fundamentally, basically go-kart sized tracks with a bit of off-road.
Okay.
So depending on weather conditions, you would run full slick tyres, and then the off-road bit, you would bimble through it, though you don't bimble through it really. Go through it as fast as you can, and then get on the tarmac again, then blast about on tarmac.
Crikey. Okay.
But there was a British Championship round in 03 in Isle of Man, and I went over to that, so that would be my first ever looking or seeing of any Isle of Man racing. And there wasn't a big draw then, it was like, you're racing somewhere, you got the day off, so you might as well go and watch some racing somewhere else.
Yeah.
And then 05 I went to the Isle of Man, again, just with some friends, and that was to watch Guy, and that was being a proper spectator. So we stopped in Quarterbridge campsite, which is first basically right-hand corner in the Isle of Man.
Yeah.
And we just went and got pissed in a tent.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like it.
Well, just what spectators do. They sit by the roadside, see some bikes whizzing past you, get drunk, and that was that.
When did you first start? Did you? And I know you say now it's a hobby and you're just lucky enough to have gotten paid for it at one period of time. But was there ever a mental shift where, because surely it costs money? You know, you spoke obviously about your dad was making you little bits and bobs, and he was a builder, but he had this on the side. When you started getting more heavily into it yourself, and you went, God, I can see why I'm not winning this bit because I need to get a better bike or I need to get a better this. All of that must have been a lot of personal sacrifice, personal investment to start with.
Oh, yeah, initially, massively. I mean, my first ever season racing was a Honda Hornet in 06, and that would be doing short circuit meetings, so racing Mallory Park, Cadwell Park, Donington Park, whatever. We did a season of that. And the only reason I went down that road, really, because Stu Martin, who's Guy Martin's brother, I obviously used to supermoto race in the day back with him and stuff. And I went to Mallory Park he was doing a track day, so went and looked at him doing that, said, oh, do you want a session? Okay. I went out and did a session, ended up falling off it.
Okay.
But I got within a second and a half of what lap times he was doing.
Wow.
So you're like, okay, I'm not bad at that, but you feel a bit bad that you've fallen off a bike that he had for sale, basically. So I ended up buying that bike and then thought, well, I'll race it next year. Can't be bad at it. So that was my sort of initiation into circuit racing, really. And then...
When's the first time you started going what you would consider fast? Because what I would consider fast is anything over 100 miles an hour. But I'm
I mean, a Honda...
under the impression you probably did that quite young.
Yeah, well, a Honda Hornet would do probably 120, 130 round a racetrack. But again, if someone in front of you, if you're not winning, you're not going fast enough.
Yeah.
And that's the same with everything. So if we drift on further to when I went to Northwest 200, I went through a speed trap a couple of laps, and I've got on the date of the speed trap 201 mile an hour. Which sounds incredible. That's the fastest I've ever been on a bike on paper, but the leaders were doing 209. So you're not going fast enough.
How do you think? Have you ever looked at training your mind for that sort of speed? Do you think anybody can go that fast? I mean, obviously anybody can pull a throttle and just try and hold on, but
well, again, it's programming your mind. So literally, the first practice, like was on about suspension change at the TT, you would go out, and your brain hadn't done that speed or had to process that information. So it is just literally a time. It's a learning process, isn't it?
It's a bigger cost, though. I mean, again, echoing back to that book, I remember they spoke about reaction speeds, and they had the best ping pong player in the world. And they said, this person, because of this type of sport, and they timed the hits, and they're like, this has to have the fastest reaction speed. And they put them against a tennis player, and they couldn't even move in the right direction, let alone hit the ball.
Yeah.
And they found, and I wonder what the correlation is here, that the problem was he was looking at the ball and trying to react to the ball.
Yeah.
Whereas the greatest players, and even when he was in his ping pong world, he wasn't looking at the ball. They did the tracking sensors on the whole body, and he's actually looking at all the subtle cues of what the body's about to look like, it thinks like it's about to do.
Yeah.
And you respond in that. And I'm wondering if, for yourself, when you're coming in and out of these corners so fast, how far ahead must your mind need to be thinking?
Well, it will...
And calculating everything from I've just made contact to I've just gone over a cat's eye to I've just been hit by a bit of crosswind to all of these variations of calculation in the mind.
But again, a lot of them, anything to do with wind and stuff, will be little adjustments, whereas I class the TT, especially when you've been there so long, dot to dotting.
Okay.
So you'd have a breaking point, which could be a gate post, it could be a little tree in someone's garden. You'd break at that, then you'd have a tipping point, an apex point, an acceleration point, so every corner would only be 4 dots.
Yeah.
So although you're doing 180 mile per hour in a straight line, you're not worrying about what you're flying past, what beer they're drinking over there, what the sunlight in your eyes. You're just thinking of the next point you've got to remember.
Travelling at that speed and doing the manoeuvres, it's a totally different style of riding.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say you'll never really do it on the road unless you're a bit of a nutcase, because your tyres won't be to the right temperatures. You would need a performance sort of tyre on, which in racing world, if you're doing a track day, then anything like that, you would be going fast enough. And it is just the progression of speed. Your tyres will grip if they're, again, to temperature and the right
so,
pressure.
Yeah, it's almost a chicken and egg thing. It's like, well, if your tyres are hot enough, you won't feel dangerous because it will grip easily.
Yes.
But the problem is when you're tentatively pootling around at 30 and they're like, I'll tell you what, I'm going to pick up some speed and go for the next corner and
try and get my knee down.
Tyre. Yeah.
You're not going to do it. And especially, again, tyre pressure world, what you have tyres set on the road to hit all the potholes and all that, on tracks you'd have vastly less pressure for contact patch,
A lot softer so that you're holding that traction as it's pulling around, the whole tyre will sort of shift across.
And the say front tyres will distort, so it holds the lines and everything. We're not talking massive distortion, but again, if you have some of the slow motion pictures, you'll see your contact patch on the front tyre won't be half-inch wide, it'll be inch and a half wide because it's distorted to give you that.
Yeah, that's got to be so surreal when you probably first see those still images and you think, crikey, what's up with the front tyre? Well, it's nothing. It's just that. It's
just working as it's sort of designed to and should.
Yeah. The pressure you're moving at and that sort of, we think about with the pump, that centrifugal force that's put as you rip out and it's trying to hold you in. I suppose it's an entirely different way of thinking about it.
And it's the same with the rear tyre when you're going to accelerate out a corner.
Yeah.
If you're losing the rear tyre through spinning up, then you would just keep dropping the pressure a PSI more to give you a big contact patch so you don't do that. or you'd make a suspension adjustment to soften the suspension off. So as you accelerate, it squats down.
More of your weight sits down into it, and gives you that flex as you sort of push through it. Yeah, that's so surreal. But to have that faith and somebody say, "Oh no, you did everything right. We just need to take the pressure down." Yeah, but I fucking fell off. No, you were fine.
Yeah.
It was a problem with a bike, and then go and do it again. That must be, you've got to have some balls to do that, because you'd be like, you want to go do the thing I just did, and you're saying you've made a tweak and it's fine now. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Well, no, but again, that is a trust thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
You trust to, especially, we keep alluding to the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man TT, you have to trust all the mechanics, the suspension guys, the tyre guys, that they've done everything right, because you don't have a thought in your head when you set off from the start line for your 6-lap race, averaging 127, 128 mile per hour over a 6-lap race, that something's wrong or you want to do it.
Yeah, but
so it's
even
a trust
in that, though,
thing.
because I think, I'm looking at the averages, and I know I wrote them down. So it was the Isle of Man track, there's 270 people killed since it started. 70 people who enter the race average 2 will die every year. That seems some pretty challenging statistics to be racing in, though. And I know there'll be human factors and people make mistakes. But
again, you don't ever think of any of that, or you wouldn't do it. You can't say, right, just nip out your car now. You've got to cross the road. Someone might knock you over. Someone might die.
I always
but
think
you do that.
Yeah, like when you drive down the road, and I'm like, think about how much trust you're placing in somebody.
Yes.
People are like, what about I'm driving away? And I'm like, there is a thin white line separating you from a total stranger.
Yes.
They could be drunk.
Yeah.
They could be angry. They could be on the phone. They could be completely absent. Their vehicle might be about to fall apart.
They could have a medical issue as well.
Have a medical issue. And they are that 6-inch white line between you and them. The amount you're gambling, and people that, oh no, I'm not. You know, but you're right. And in that respect, when you think about it, even if you go to a mechanic and they say, yeah, it's fine. Fucking okay.
Yeah, then it's trust. Unless you've physically done it yourself, and
Yeah.
obviously you get to a position that you don't do it all yourself, you have them people in the background doing it all for you, then you can't have any doubt with what they've done. Now, if they've messed up and something's dropped off, then you can sort of, come on, that shouldn't have happened. What are you going to do with that? Then he'll turn around and say, right, I'm lock tying them, or I'm lock wiring them, or various things, so it doesn't happen again. Because you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
But you also have a load of trust.
Yeah. Now, you were not lucky. I was going to say lucky enough then. You got to a position where you were getting paid for your racing, and we're going to go into more detail about that. But I want to speak about this sort of crossover, work-life balance. You trained up as an engineer, but obviously you work as an on-call firefighter as well. When did you first join the fire service, and why? What was the appeal to it?
I will have joined the fire service in 2006, so I passed out in December 2006.
Okay.
And that was...
How old would you have been then?
a good bit of maths now. 21, 22.
So still quite young, really. Yeah. So where would you have been in your life and racing career and relationships?
Racing career was evolving. That was my first season of racing in 2006.
Okay. And why did you decide to step out into a big commitment of starting another career, effectively, even though it's only on call, but it still requires a lot of mastery to do it well?
Well, my friend Jordan, who is now watch manager support over us in Lincoln, he sort of bribed me, got me into it, because his old man was watch manager in Bardney, so obviously he used to live in Bardney, so we used to cover Bardney. His old man, John, was watch manager. Jordan was a firefighter as well. And he said, oh, come along, come and have a laugh with us. It's quite good. Do this, do that. Get paid a few grand for it. Okay, right, yeah.
Mess about with your mates, play with toys and stuff.
Well, you go and see your mates once a week and have a bit of a laugh. Occasionally have to do something fairly serious. But, so yeah, okay, give that a go. And
so you went straight into it in 2006?
Yeah, did the 3 months training.
What was training like for you? Did you do it on station, or did you have to go away for it?
No. We used to have to go to a training. I was going to say training barracks. It's only because it's at Waddow now.
Yeah, Waddingham.
But originally it was at Lincoln South, so we was trained at Lincoln South. It would be because you're doing it for the on call. It wasn't like. It was spread over 3 months, but it'd be like a weekend, then a week off, then a long weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then a week off, then a whole week there training of various different things.
You've got to balance it with your actual career as well, because obviously people are doing this around what they already do. So around what you were already doing, were you train it as you already got a job in what you do now as an engineer? Or?
Well, no. So I've been in the same job since I was 16.
Oh, really?
I started as an apprentice at Alstom back then. That's where I stayed.
Yeah.
I'm now working in the maintenance department, so we maintain everything on site. So all the CNC machines, all the fork trucks, cranes, everything, anything that breaks on site. Not anything to do with I was going to say household stuff, commercial stuff like ovens and taps, and so we don't do any of that side. But anything that makes stuff, that makes turbines, we fix and repair, service.
So were you always hands-on with the bikes and stuff as well?
Yeah.
You know, because again, we talk about that tinkering. I see a lot of people coming into the emergency services now, and we make assumptions that they will know certain things, just even about a combustion engine or how to grease something or how to just the basics of a toolbox and grab me a monkey wrench or something like that. And those are assumptions we can't make anymore because, especially, I mean, I drove here in an electric vehicle today. My children may never drive a vehicle, same as we did. So, swapping out smart plugs or learning how to change a tyre, maybe not something they never do again.
No, that's what I mean. I think that is a dying trade over a load of things, really.
Yeah.
Because, again, like we alluded to earlier, is it how they've been brought up, and everyone wants to go to uni now. Whereas when I was younger...
I never went to uni.
No, I didn't go to uni. I didn't go to college. Literally went straight from school to work. But is that something that is dying a death in 30 years' time? When
I think it'll come back a bit. I think like fashion and like everything else, I think these things happen in cycles.
Possibly.
I think when we were younger, there was an abundance. Like my dad ran a building firm. There was an abundance of people with blue-collar skills.
Yeah.
And because there was an abundance, it wasn't worth as much.
No.
Because, scarcity is where money goes. So people didn't have qualifications. People didn't have, well, some people have qualifications, but they didn't have degrees.
Yeah.
So then the pendulum swung. Everybody, or the large majority of people, wanted to go to university. They wanted to get a degree. And we come back to this conversation about information.
Yeah.
We were then flooded with degrees in information.
Yes.
But it wasn't necessarily making people happier.
No.
And I'm not decreeing anybody that went off to university, but there are some people that feel like they've spent a lot of money and they've not actually any further along than perhaps somebody like myself.
Yes.
My sister's really well educated. She's very, very intelligent. She's a teacher, but she earns about the same as what I earn. And I know there's an aspect of her of, well, you didn't do any of the thing I did.
No. Yeah, I would
Pissed
say
around, tossed it off for 10 years doing stupid stuff, whatever I did different businesses and stuff like that, but I never went and got that education.
No, I would say that is the same with a load of people. A lot of people now, obviously, Lincoln has a massive uni, and just we was fire training last night, and we went past some of the student accommodation. It's vast now, the amount of accommodation. It's ridiculous, really. But how many of them are going to get the job that they're getting trained to do?
I know people with doctorates that have come into the fire service, and I don't think how sad, and I absolutely do not look down on them by any stretch of imagination. I'm fascinated by them. I love having conversations with them because they're far more intelligent than I am. But I think did somebody sell you something after it had gone, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's like me trying to sell you this phone and then you realising 3G doesn't work anymore and we're actually all on 4 or 5G. I feel like some people have pursued this go and get a degree thing, and there's still plenty of careers that need it. I mean, to be a paramedic and a police officer, you need a degree now, but I don't feel like it's as valuable as it once was. And again, I think the pendulum swung where the scarcity will be people like yourself, who have actually got applicable hands-on skills. And we're looking at that, especially in the fire service, when we're looking at the generation of people and the amount of people leaving the fire service now. Natural retirement in most cases, but we're hemorrhaging skills that we're not training people to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
We're in a lot of fire service just ticking boxes, aren't we?
Yeah, it's scary.
It is scary,
It's
really.
scary when you still need the people knuckle dragging people like me and you. I hope you don't mind me
I was going to
including
say,
you in that.
but we're the monkeys.
I'm the monkeys. I'm a
Yeah.
knuckle dragging grease monkey. I'm messing about with audio equipment here, trying to think I know what I'm doing. But you can talk to me in a certain way, and I'll respond well in a certain way. And I'm a worker. I'm a grafter. Stick me in the hole, and I'll bring out the nugget.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas we can pontificate and talk and say as intelligent as you are, but you still need knuckle draggers to go and get it done.
Yeah.
He does boots on the ground.
Is there an app out for that? Is there an app that...
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I see that? Can I do that?
And there's an irony in that as well, that even if there was an app or an AI or a machine that would do it for us, we wouldn't want the machine because we'd be like, oh, we don't want to do everybody out the job. Yeah, well, then you need to still do the knuckle dragging bit of the job.
Yeah.
If you want to keep it is what it is. Anyway, I love us going down rabbit holes. So you were dead set on doing that aspect of it. You did all your 3 months training.
Yeah.
You've continued going down this career that you started when you were 16. Was there ever a moment when, when people in your service or people started learning a little bit, hey, yeah, Ivan, the guy that's just joined, he's actually a pretty shit hot racer and he does all of this, and people must have been finding you and Googling you.
Well, I would say that is a progression because Google's your friend with everything, isn't it?
Yes.
But in fire service world, it would only really Bardney. There's probably the odd person. Obviously, we work for Lincolnshire Fire and Rescue.
Yeah.
There'd be odd person in the, I call them the upper circle.
Yeah.
That would maybe know a race.
Yeah.
But short of that, it would just be the lads at Bardney allowed me to do what I needed to do, how I needed to do it, because because especially in the later years, I used to be like, right, sorry, I need to go testing. I need to go off call now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the pump off the run. I don't mean to, but I need to be here because of the team or whatever.
Yeah. And they appreciate that.
Yeah,
because of the bigger pieces that are in play in your world. Better or worse than anybody else.
No.
There's just bigger pieces at play.
Yeah.
When was the first time you attended any kind of road traffic collision as a firefighter?
Oh, about 2 days after passing out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was that?
It was a car crash on Meg Airfield, Methering Airfield, fairly near here. And it was just one of them things, you go and tick the box, you've been training it, so you went to go and do what you was trained to do.
Yeah.
And it's only afterwards that you get talking to the paramedic, because dealing with a lady who's been in a car crash, and I was her drip stand basically, just the paramedics just stood there holding the drip, doing little things.
You see a lot more from that position sometimes, though.
Oh, of course you do. And
you see everything.
She had blood in her mask.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is she coughing up blood? She got internal injuries or anything? And they went, no, they're from her teeth. Oh, she knocked some teeth out. Said, oh, look in the steering wheel. Her two front teeth were embedded in top of the steering wheel.
Wow.
And then one paramedics come back and took them out, and they said, "Oh, we'll put them back in the hospital."
Wow, surreal. So, did this ever change any? Because before, you had your slips and your trips, nothing anywhere near, and some of the stuff we're going to be getting on talking about today. But did anything ever shift for you where you began to because I stopped riding my bikes. So I had my first had a Yamaha 125R when I was like 15, and then I had what did I have? Triumph TT600. Then I had an R6. Then I had an R1. Then I had a Suzuki SV 1000S, and that was the fastest I went, and that scared me. At 22 years of age, I was like, "This is too fast." I think I said to you before, I was going down the M1 and a stone popped up. I was only on like 130, 140, and it hit me in the shoulder.
They're fairly hurt, don't they?
Yeah, and then the next few days, a big black bruise and all this sort of stuff. And it was, just windy and rainy and slipping over cat's eyes. And I wasn't a great rider. And I just got scared. And I was just like, I don't. And then I'd been going to incidents, we'd have fatalities in riders. And I thought, it just changed my perspective.
Right.
And I wasn't a smart kid. I was doing plenty of other stupid stuff. Did it ever make you consider... And did you ride the same in the street as you rode on the tracks? And did you ride recreationally as well?
Yeah. I used to have a C90.
Okay.
I never had a fast road bike. The fastest road bike I ever had was I did have a 500 GS 500 for a very little bit, but got rid of that because it was too big for me. I had a C90 for 15 years on the road. Wow. I passed my test on a fizzy. Used to travel. And then went to an RXS 100. Then someone at work sold me a C90.
Yeah.
And I say it was 10 miles to work and back from Bardney each day. But I was quite happy on that.
Yeah.
And 15 years rode that.
Yeah, that's surreal though, given what you were doing on the track days.
But
did you even see it as the same thing?
No. But you have in your head that you've been to the car crashes, you've seen bike crashes and stuff. You see when people don't treat roads how they should be treated, what can end up with doing. Whereas if I fell off a circuit, the medical team's there, the ambulance is there, the medical centre's open. Within 3-5 minutes, you're going to be scooped
from
up
the track to that.
Yeah, and be ambulatory if you need it. Whereas you could be laid in a dying bottom on the road and not anyone even know you're there for
hours.
Half hour,
Yeah, potentially. Especially some of the more remote areas,
Yes.
which ironically are some of the more popular areas to ride.
Oh, massively.
The big winding country roads where you fly off into a field. From the road, people may not even see you there.
Yeah, precisely. And it's just then, and then you just think that may have been unlucky happening what happening, but all happens for a reason. And if you can steer that reason so it's more in your favour, then I used to vent my anger and aggression on racetracks where it was all there to scoop you up and if it all went wrong.
Yeah. You know what? I was very much the same when I think back to roller hockey, ice hockey, and some of the other sports I used to play. I was very, very, very aggressive. Even basketball. I used to play academy basketball. I was very aggressive on the court.
Right.
Quite nasty, to be honest, at times. And we'd get in little fights and stuff on the pitch and stuff like that. But when it was finished, people were like, "Oh, wait for you in the car park." I'd be like, "I don't want to fight.
No.
I'm not up for that." It's a game.
Yeah.
It's a game. But people couldn't detach that. And I wonder if there's a correlation there between the people that come and see you and see riders of your caliber and go, "Hey, dude, should we go out to the lakes and go for some running?" And you just, maybe when you must hear that, think, "God, no. I'm not better than you, but I'm in I'm a whole different world over here. I'm not, you don't have to, it's not you trying to be as brave as me. I'm not really, I don't want to speak for you, but like, I'm not really brave because I'm doing it in a very controlled way."
Yes.
There's no risk of a bloody lorry pulling out as I'm coming around a freaking corner.
Yeah.
It's a whole different mindset for it. So in that, and whilst we speak about this place of safety, I want to take us up to 2018 when, you'd been very successful with the stuff in the Isle of Man. And before we came on today, we were having a couple of videos about what we're going to speak about. You had quite a horrific injury in 2018 as part of your sporting career. The repercussions of which are around us today. We've got, and I'll probably take a photo before we leave. We've got a helmet next to us. We've seen some footage. Talk us through what was happening on that day in 2018.
Again, we was at the Southern 100 event, which is in the Isle of Man. It's just down the south, so it is in the Isle of Man course, but it's a 4.25 mile road course, and we'd had quite a good meeting all round. So it's spread over 4 days, but we'd had good qualifying, good previous race. We had a win, was lapping as fast as we had done with any other race. And this
How was your career moving, working up to that? Because you'd already won once before this, had you not? You were running twice, in fact.
Yeah, I won 2 Isle of Man TT races. In the Isle of Man TT race in 2018, we was leading and pulling away, and the crank snapped and she blew up. So that was that done. And I say, going back to the Southern 100, it was the last race of the whole event, and it was just I just got involved in James Blessim's crash, the aftermath of James's crash. Really, James Cowton crashed in front of us and hit the bales on the outside, brought him into the track, and then there was 3 other rides off through all that. Really. So,
how many people usually race in these?
Again, the Isle of Man, there'd be 70 on the grid, but they are off at 10-second intervals. Where the Southern 100, there is 40 mass start.
40 all go at once? Why? That just seems significantly more dangerous.
Well, it is, but it's just a different...
I know it's a race. That's how I would think of a race. If somebody said start every 10 seconds, some people might think, "Oh, well, that's
it's time
different."
trial."
Yeah. So, but that brings a whole another complexity to it, and I'm not saying we should stop doing things like that, but it very much creates an opportunity for collisions to happen because people are moving.
But I mean, when the accident happened in the Isle of Man, you'd be, I think it was 3 laps into the race. I was in 7th place of sort of the leading pack. The leading pack was spread over sort of 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah. They were all within arm's reach. I know not in arm's reach in terms of you're all travelling at that speed, but if we took a snapshot in time, I could throw a stone from probably position 10 to position 1. Yeah. There weren't that much distance between the two of them.
No.
So coming up to it, And again, some of this is available, I'm sure, on YouTube. Very little of it is because of the tragic result of what happened. But so James has come and tight in. He's clipped that inside wall, and then when you see the other riders come behind it, because you have two cameras on the bike, don't you?
Yeah, actually, James clipping the inside wall was an electrical fault with his bike.
Oh, really?
So he wasn't.
What happened then?
A wire in the right-hand switch gear become dislodged, and it cut it out mid-corner. So when you expect him to pick the throttle up to drive out of the corner, he couldn't because the bike had cut out, and then that's why he scrubbed too much speed off and clipped the inside wall.
So when you saw that happen in front of you,
I can't.
How much of it do you remember?
Oh no, I can't. I probably can't remember 3 or 4 months of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I can't remember anything to do with the Sub 100 whatsoever. Can remember little bits of 18's TT. I know about the race because we had camera footage, we have photographs.
I know we've got a box full of things in front of us here.
But anything to do with what went on in between, don't really know. And I say after the crash, I don't remember anything really till Lincoln Hospital, which is 8 weeks into recovery.
Wow. So you've got a myriad of beautiful helmets around us here. We've got the helmet that it took place with. There's an enormous crack down the right-hand side, and you can open the whole thing up a little bit like a coconut.
Yeah.
What did you hit?
A dry stone wall, so obviously hit the barrier initially, and...
So the barrier had been thrown into the course, hadn't it?
Yeah, and then I hit a dry stone wall, end of a dry stone wall.
So between yourself
Which
and
are quite
James...
forgiving.
Yeah, well, sort of. Yeah, it would suggest not. There was 4 riders involved in the incident, and horrific for it to happen to anybody. But you and James looked to be slightly on the outsides of it, and as he clipped the inside and you ended up hitting the outside, and the other 2 individuals came to rest in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
What were the extent of their injuries?
Without Googling, I won't be able to tell you. It would... not massive. I don't think they broke anything.
Well, you see at the end of the video, one of them stands straight back up, I think.
Yeah.
So there was, in comparison to
that would again be a survival mode to get out of the track.
Adrenaline, yeah.
Just get me out of the way, because you don't know what's happening behind you. You don't know what's really just gone on, do you?
No. Well, there's also another 30 people coming up behind you pretty damn fast.
Yes. But then the flags would have been out. I mean, marshals are there, but the leading pack, until you'd seen James's crash, you turn round, that's a second gone. You get the flag out, that'd be another second, and then we're already on the brakes into that corner, so you're going around that corner at racing speed before the flag's even out. I mean, it's not anyone's fault because of that, but it's all...
Once you're in that sort of slipstream of the race, there's almost no way to get away from it, is there? There's not, and because of the nature of the TT, for anybody that's unfamiliar with it, you can't just turn off onto the, like at Donington or whatever. You can't just pull off and try and skid it out on the stones.
No, that's what I mean. If that had been at Donington, there wouldn't have been
anywhere near that level of carnage.
No.
People would have been able to get out of the way. But this is, when you see the footage, it's like when you see the rally car stuff as well. There's people stood either side. You're 4 feet away from dry stone walls, away from everyone that's seeing it happen live in front of you.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you trying to find this thing?
I'm just saying that is the...
Oh yeah, so a Warren fault caused fatal crash that claimed the life of experienced road racer James Cowton. An inquest had heard that Yorkshire rider James Cowton died after a broken connection between 2 wires linked to kill switch on a 600 Kawasaki caused a crash that claimed his life at last year's Southern 100. How old was James?
26.
26. Yeah. How old would you have been?
How many years ago? 33.
33. So, what was the extent of it? You say you lost 3 or 4 months of your life.
Yeah.
What was the extent of your injuries?
Medical report out now.
Hit us with the medical report.
Right. Traumatic brain injury, diffuse axial injury, left tib and fib fracture, open conniotal fracture, wherever that is, left hand ribs, bilateral lung collapse, grade 1 pubic system disruption. Basically, I had open pelvic fracture, open butt pelvic
your
fracture.
pubic bone that sits inside your hip
Okay,
flexor.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I opened grade 1 of them. Few ribs one side, collapsed along that side because of the ribs. Open fracture tib and fib. And then I say the big issue, I suppose, is the diffuse axial injury.
So what happened with regard to that for anybody that's unfamiliar with?
Well, that is, I think they airlifted me in an ambicopter. They stabilised me on track. Took them an hour and a half. They put me into a coma on track.
Yeah, because you were having CPR at the time. Were you dead on the track?
I
Or were you just doing a fibrillation or whatever it is?
Yeah, I was deemed bad enough that I had a team working on me, and then I say the ambicopter arrived, put me into a coma on track. It took them an hour and a half to stabilise me because ultimately the team had known I'd come off, but the team went to Ireland Hospital, but by that time I hadn't arrived yet.
Yeah.
So then they landed in Ironman Hospital. They had scanned me and did some stuff in there. But then when they had done the, obviously, head scan and stuff, they sort of decided they wasn't good enough to deal with me. So then they got ringing around the neuro specialists in the UK. And then I got loaded into a jet and flown over in a jet to Aintree.
Wow. So I don't want to jump past because we spoke about extended injuries there, but one thing that we didn't really laugh about, but we found fascinating, was that it had ripped one of your boots off as well.
Yes.
Still zipped up, still clean. Did you damage your legs as well?
Yeah, again, the leg that will have relaxed would have been the broken leg, so tib and fib in that leg meant it maybe go floppy, but I've got the boot upstairs and the zip still works on the boot. The boot would have been velcroed heavily around my leg, but it come off.
Yeah,
but that's the leg that broke.
We said about that. That's the body goes into a straight, and you said some of the doctors had spoken about it. It goes into some sort of strange, relaxed, malleable state where it can just rip it clean out of the boot.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised the leg didn't come off.
And how that would have been caught up on something, or how that had all happened, I don't really know.
Yeah, the amount of pressure has got to be involved to rip that from your leg.
Yes.
It's just surreal.
It's fairish.
So did you have a partner at this time? Were you living with family, friends,
no,
mum
I had
and
a
dad?
partner. So I'd been with Shona only 6 months. Wow. So we was fairly into the early stages of the relationship. Everything weren't living together at that stage. And
how did she feel about you racing?
It sort of happened.
Found it sexy as hell to start with.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, no, but I don't. It maybe wasn't her thing because it wasn't a family thing, but it's what I did. So sort of went along them lines.
Package,
yeah. But whether it had been part of the package 3-5 years on, I don't really know. But at that stage, she will have got the phone call from my parents, I think, to sort of say, Ivan's been involved in an accident, he's in hospital in there, and then she come up the next day into hospital to see me.
So you were jetted over to the UK, and the big concern was the potential brain damage, the bleeds that you had going on. How long were you in hospital for?
In Aintree, I was in 3 weeks. Then they transferred me to Nottingham Queen's. Then I was in there for 3 weeks. Then they transferred me to Lincoln. Then another 4.5 weeks there.
So a
10
couple
and a half
of
weeks.
months that you were in hospital. When did you regain consciousness? When did they bring you out of the coma?
They tried to bring me out in a week, but then I just started ripping all the pipes out of me. So they put me straight back down.
Okay. Do you remember that?
Oh, no. I honestly can't remember anything till probably the last couple of weeks in Lincoln.
Really? So when you woke up and you began to become conscious in Lincoln, what did you remember about it? How early did you learn about why you were there? Where was your head at?
Again, this was because my memory is possibly one of my worst things regards a lot of things. I literally would not know anything about anything really. Obviously fell off and whatever, and because of our friends' social media and all that now, you do know what happened, you do know where you finished in that race. That's how I sort of remember it, and it isn't from me actually knowing anything.
Really?
No. My
memory's pretty terrible, to be fair.
Yeah.
My missus asked me how I got here today, and I'm like, sat nav.
Yeah.
I'm just like, my mind switches off with so much stuff.
I write everything down now, because when it's written down, you will remember it.
Notes on my phone are the king.
Notes and calendars.
Calendar. We've got like 4 calendars that feed into ours. Different commitments, the kids, the horses, the dogs. And my missus could literally say, you picking Lily up today? Yeah, I'm picking Lily up. But 5 hours later, when I look at my diary to think what I'm up to this afternoon, if she's not put in, pick Lily up from school, I will forget.
I'd be the same. Well, to be perfectly honest, when you texted me last night, we're okay for this, I forgot this was happening.
You're like,
because I didn't put it in my calendar. But then I put it in the calendar straight away. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no worries.
Of course, absolutely. I'm the same. Calendar is God to me.
Because it's written in black and white. And again, talking to neuro people, how your brain processes stuff, if you, say, remember 20 short-term things, when you try and remember the 21st, you either take one of them 20 out and lose it, or you upgrade it to a medium term. Because they're all stored in different bits of your head.
Yeah, mate, you're 100%. And there's a thing in there about people as well. And I'm going to get this totally wrong, but I'm going to go for it anyway, right? We can have strong connections with, I think it's like 20 people. And when I mean strong connections, like you have a deep level of knowledge about that individual. Because they're important to you and you upgrade them to that significant level. And then I think it's 100 people we can have loose connections with, where you remember parts of their life. And then I think it goes to 500. You can remember names. You can remember names of 500 people. And that sounds like a lot to me. I'm not sure I can remember 5 names. But if somebody popped someone up in front of you, and it would include celebrities or whatever, like people you reckon, oh, that's The Rock, that's bloody, Prince, whoever. You would recognise them by that. And then there's 1,000 or something like that. It might be slightly more. You have a facial recognition team where you would do a double take. You wouldn't know their name. And like you say, it goes in levels. And as soon as someone else significant levels up, someone levels down. That's when you see someone, you're like, I've seen him before, or I know her, but at some point they got downgraded in your mind. And you're right in that aspect. It's the same with learning things. The old funny joke is, I think they have it on The Simpsons, don't they, when they're like, oh, you remember when Dad learned how to make coffee and forgot how to drive? And he's just holding a cup of coffee screaming at the wheel because she's forgotten how to do it. But in a simplistic fashion, it happens the same with us.
Yeah, that's it. And I say it is exactly the same with me even now, really. I do recognise you from somewhere. What's your name?
I know, you feel like such a dick, don't you? You're like, oh, hello, mate. Hello, mate. Oh, that's what I was saying, mate.
Some people, especially from racing world, they'll come up and say, oh, so-and-so, and they'll get talking about their bike or whatever. I obviously spoke to them about their bike probably 3 or 5 years ago, but I haven't got a clue.
To them, that was... And they've had more interaction with you than you have with them. Because they've seen you race, they've seen you at a thing, they've seen a picture of you on a podium, all of these subconscious embedded, and you've only seen them once. And it is horrible because you feel like a dick. But do you find like if you can sustain the conversation, you can slowly piece together how you know them? Because like, they keep talking, then they're like, oh, yeah, and then you're like, oh, so I saw you there. Okay. And it was about this.
Okay, where'd you get them bits from? Oh, webs. Oh, it's a Yamaha they've got then, because that's Yamaha dealership.
Yeah. And that's where you can slowly piece it together and at least give them the dignity of saying, right, I think I remember a bit about you. So we'd started to regain consciousness. Partner, family were there. How quickly were you made aware of the extent of your injuries? Because you've been lying in a bed, so there'd been no physical recovery. What surgeries did you have to have?
Only the leg pieced back together. I've got a piece of metal down my shin full length.
Okay.
And
so
then
the ribs healed themselves.
Yeah.
The lung.
The lung, and I had what they call an ICP bolt, which is an intracranial pressure sensor they drill through your skull, put into where the bleed is, and then they can analyse if the bleed's getting worse or better or whatever. So I had one of them in for a bit. I had a trachea put in down there because I had breathing cord paralysis and stuff. Because they genuinely didn't know if I was going to talk again, if I'd walk again. They didn't know the extent of what I would be able to. Because again, Google, our friend, it's actually Wikipedia really. If you put DII in, it will show you who's had DAI injuries, which is the diffuse axial injury, which is what they was majorly concerned about. And
pull it up, have a look. What sort of people have we got that have been an example?
Yes, you can go to history there. That's on Wikipedia.
So here we are looking at the idea of DAI first came about as a result of the studies of Sabrina Strick on lesions of the white matter of individuals who have suffered head trauma years before. first proposed the idea, calling it diffuse degeneration of white matter. So a good example is Richard Hammond. So Richard Hammond suffering that massive DAI as a result of the vampire dragster race, crash that happened in 2006. People remember a lot of that. Obviously, had all of his massive brain trauma and a big recovery from it. Oh, crikey. Some of the Formula One stuff's in there, yeah. Champion Car World Series, Roberto Guerrera, George Bianchi. A lot of racing in there. NASCAR driver Adam Petty, grandson of 7-time Cup winner. He sustained a diffuse axonal injury secondary to a fatal. Wow. So, yeah, certainly for the UK listeners, the Richard Hammond example is one where people are very aware of the level of trauma that happens within it. Diffuse axonal injury is a brain injury in which scattered lesions occurred over a widespread area of white matter, tracts as well as grey matter. DIR is one of the most common and devastating types of traumatic brain injury and is the major cause of unconscious and persistent vegetative state. That's always the nasty bit. When you get into a vegetative state after severe head trauma, it occurs in about half of all cases of severe head trauma and maybe the primary damage that occurs in concussion. The outcome is frequently coma, with over 90% of patients with severe DAI never regaining consciousness. 90% of patients never regain consciousness. Wow, those who wake up often remain significantly impaired.
That's what I mean. So in the early stages, they genuinely didn't know how good would be, how good would end up, what would be able to do or not. Like,
so this is even more of a miraculous story than I think I'd first envisaged. 90% is a pretty... Well, 90% against you is fairly bad odds. So when you did wake up and they started doing testing, what did that look like? When?
Well, it would just be like initially memory testing.
Could you talk when you first woke up?
No, vocal cord paralysis and bits and bobs. The missus would be able to tell you what the name was of it all, but I can't remember exactly what they call it.
We'd only been together such a short period of time.
Oh yeah, well. Massively. That's why we.
Did she not think like, I better get out of here? This is not going to end well.
She was offered that by parents, and that's why.
And fair play to your parents as well, because I remember my cousin died in a car crash when I'd very early on joined the fire service, and he'd been with a girl a very short period of time, and it felt like a really horrible, constant reminder of her because he obviously died.
Yeah.
And like my family or my aunties, they wanted to stay in contact with her. And I was very much like, I don't think that's right. She's young. Yeah. She's going to live her whole life. Their son, he died. So that's it for them.
Yeah.
But she needs to go on and live her life. And this is a fairly traumatic thing for her to be involved in.
That's what me and Shona are getting married on the 18th of June.
Congratulations.
So... She's a keeper. Because she didn't walk away, she's a
100%. Keeper. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, she wasn't in it for the looks or the money or the...
lifestyle at all. Bit of a lifestyle of me.
Hey, but she's with a hero. I forgot, she's with a freaking firefighter. I mean, come on. You find them everywhere. So they started doing some cognitive testing. You couldn't speak when you woke up. What did the path to recovery look like?
Well, I suppose it's just the rocky road of they would come up with whatever checks and tests, I suppose, would alter or get them the information they want to see what my rehabilitation process was, really.
They must have had some quite reserved goals, though, low expectations.
Well, yeah, again...
Not because you're you.
No,
just because.
But I wouldn't ever know that, or you wouldn't ever get to know that sort of information, but they would have... open views of, he can do this, he can't do this, we'll keep an eye on him for whatever, like, you don't know, do you?
No.
It's people in medical world being quite good at what they do and how they do it all, bless them.
So when were you released from hospital?
Well, they started giving me weekends off, so I would have Monday to Friday in hospital, so over the last 2 weeks, sort of, they gave me a weekend off. So you go and have a weekend at home. And again, that's
just... That must have been nice, coming back for the first time. Yeah. Surreal.
And it's just things like even the rehabilitation train didn't sort of leave me for the next sort of year, 18 months.
Yeah.
Because I can remember once that they took me, one of them come with me trip to Lincoln. We had to go shopping to see that I could process money because they said that sometimes people who have had the sort of trauma, they go to give £10 for stuff that's quid and walk away because they're not expecting any change. But also, if someone said, "Oh, that's £12," they'd give them a fiver because that's enough. But I've paid you for it. Why don't you give me it? Just to see that you can do normal life things.
Yeah, I remember reading something about someone that dealt with explosives back in the days of the railways. I'm talking like hundreds, whatever years ago it was, and they would say strange things when people, because he'd had an explosion go off and disrupt him mentally. I think there's also a story about a guy that got a steel spike stuck through his head.
Okay.
And they left it in there, just chopped it off and left it in because that's what they did back then. But their entire personality changed.
Yeah.
Just because of the damage that had happened in their head. And
Yeah.
you hear of people waking up and being able to, not like telekinesis, but being able to do things they couldn't do before, or equally they can't do the strangest of things, like process. Some people become slightly sociopathic. They can't process relationships or emotions. They become very cold and yeah, so many things.
Well, yeah, the little piece of white
We
matter
don't know
floating around
we don't
in
know
the
everything
head.
about it, do
Oh
we?
no, of course we don't. And what different areas of the head do and control you, and it's incredible, really.
I think like science in general, we're still going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it. We don't fully understand so many aspects of it.
Yeah.
So you were starting to get back into this this level of life. When did you first come back and see the bike or the helmet, or was it brought to you in hospital? Or
No, the helmet was brought to me because obviously that was sent by the Isle of Man police to where the team was. So the team got that up to me, and the bike, never seen it again.
No.
Not through choice, but there wasn't a lot left of it, really. It snapped the forks out of it. There was only a couple of pieces left that you could really use on something else. It caught fire as well because it split the tank. Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah, but I say all the leathers, again, were probably brought to me when the helmet was brought to me.
Yeah. So when you started coming out of hospital, because you did some work with the Firefighters charity, how did that first start? When did you learn of them, and when did they learn of you?
You always get told about it going forward. If you ever need this, whatever, join this. This is what we've got. And it was probably, I don't know when I had my first visit there, but it was only through talking to people, you should go and try there, because I literally could not walk for, I've still got all the metalwork in my leg now, but I couldn't walk, hobbling about, still on crutches, messing about, and actually going back to the whole leg thing. So Lincoln didn't x-ray my leg. They sort of said, we've got the Nottingham x-rays, but we expect it to be fixed. So they had me go for my weekends away. I went to Alton Park. The last weekend I was in hospital for the week. I was getting discharged on Monday. I went to Alton Park and I walked 5 miles that day. Obviously, a bit of pain in my leg, but thought I'd been told it's in one bit. So I was okay, we'll try grin and bear it and carry on.
Yeah.
But on the Tuesday or the Wednesday of that week, I went in and had my leg x-rayed just to check how the brake was all repaired and stuff. Went in there and my leg was still fully broke.
Okay.
I was walking round on the pin in my leg, and that's why I was getting massive pain in my ankle, because it's screwed in your ankle, screwed in your knee. And they said, no, get you back in a wheelchair, get you back on bloody crutches. So it was sort of a backwards track.
Yeah.
Initially, you think, I'm getting somewhere now. My leg's okay. And then bloody get told, your leg's fully broke. That's why it's hurt.
It's a long time for your leg to recover, that is.
Well, that's what I mean. That's how they had in their head, it'll be fixed, it'll be glued together. Just if it causes too much pain, get off it.
Yeah.
Whereas people's different pain levels.
Yeah, especially for somebody that's done the extreme things you have done.
Yeah.
And I'd be just as bad. I've torn muscles and had surgeries, and then I've re-injured stuff because I'm like, oh no, that's just pain, I'll push through. Oh no, that's just pain, I'll push through. And then you go snap and you go, shit, I should have stopped.
Going further forward, so we're talking probably 9 months a year, still hobbling about thinking, well, I can't walk right. Must be the metalwork in my leg, might not ever be able to walk right. And someone said, just go up to Penrith, to the Firefighters charity in Penrith, see if they'll have you. And obviously had the phone call, and they would have me. And I had the ladies there analyse my leg, all the movements and stuff in it, with no weight. They said, oh, no, you should be able to walk. You think, that's a load of shit. I've been trying to walk for the last 9 months and can't do it. So they got me on... Have you been up to Penrith?
I've not been to Penrith side, no.
Penrith, they've got an anti-gravity treadmill there.
Oh, wow.
So you sort of put some fancy shorts on, zip yourself into an airbag, then it takes weight off your legs so you walk normally.
Yeah.
And they said, right, do this 5,000 steps and we'll reprogram your head. You're like, slow shit, I've been trying to reprogram my head for ages. I can't fucking walk. So,
Yeah.
okay, we'll do this to toe the line. So I did 5,000 steps. They're right, unzip yourself, try and walk across there, still hobbled.
Yeah.
Tuesday again, did 5,000 steps again, still hobbled. And you're like, well, this is load of shit, but I'll still do it because we're up here doing the rehabilitation
let's
thing.
go for it.
Wednesday, they said, right, we'll try and up it to 6,000. Just took a bit more weight off my legs so I could do the 6,000 steps. Did 6,000 steps, unzipped myself out of the bag, walked straight across the gym.
Really?
And they said, we've programmed your head how to walk again.
Wow.
I know.
How did that feel when you did that?
Oh, well, it's an incredible thing. You think, well, I'm not a complete spaz still. And they said, because your leg will move, your leg has got so used to hobbling that hobbling is how you walk.
Yeah. It's like when exactly that, I was just going to give the same example you've actually gone through, but someone has an injury, they compensate for the injury, and then when the injury heals, they never recompensate.
No.
They never change back because they've been conditioned in that way, especially when it's conditioned with a trigger like pain.
Yeah.
It's like, no, definitely walk like that because it hurts.
Yeah.
No, definitely walk like that. And it's such a sharp recalibration that it forces you into that conditioning of this is how we walk.
Honestly,
now.
the anti-gravity treadmill thing, bloody incredible thing.
Yeah.
But it did that to you and you end up... So obviously, I'd probably 6 weeks off, 8 weeks off in between. I went for a second visit and they all got me actually running again because I used to quite like running for the fitness side of things.
Yeah, 100%.
And
just for fulfillment, just for life.
Well,
it's just because you're still young.
Bloody nice and weird to think that this bag of wind on a treadmill taught me to walk again.
That's so surreal. But again, something that so few people will actually get exposure to and actually be able to use. There he is. Oh wow! So it's effectively it is a massive bag of wind at the bottom of it.
Yeah, but because it can analyse your weight when you get on it. So it'll know how much air it needs to take off the scales, which must be built into the treadmill base somehow.
Yeah.
It knows that if you want 100% weight taken off your legs, it can do that. If you want no weight taken off your legs, it'll be a normal treadmill.
That's crazy, isn't it, to see that working?
Because they get you to do that to see if the movement of your ankle and leg is all right.
Yeah. If it's actually running in alignment, yeah. That must have been such a surreal experience.
Well, you've been taught how to walk, and it's like being a kid, isn't it?
Yeah, and even now, when I think about issues I've got with the knee and your back, and you think, God, if I really had it studied, I know there will be so many little pivots.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And exactly with that, I bet it was just, a couple of millimetres change direction in the knee and a couple of millimetres change of where the ankle placement is and where what your gait's like, all of those small tweaks that then recondition you to be able to do it again.
Yes. And we are where we are now to get me back into work, back into bloody fire service.
But when you were going through that sort of 9-month period before that, and you kind of were walking with pain, and you had that hobble, you didn't think you'd ever run again, you were going through all these tests of mental cognition, at an age where some people are thinking about moving on with a career, some people are moving about having a family, some people are thinking about whatever I'm going to be doing for the next 30 years. How did you keep your shit together? How did you keep your mind able to keep getting up every morning and being optimistic that
it's goals
something's going to get better?
It's goals at the end of the thing. Like I had in my head, obviously the racing side of things had gone. After 11 months away...
Had you decided you weren't going to race again? How soon did you make that decision, or did you go race again?
No, I haven't been on a race bike. I've got a little 50cc for nipping about on, and that's it really. Because I would have a lot of interest in when your hobby kills you. When your hobby kills you, how interested in that hobby really. Still massively interested in bikes, watch bikes, go to race meetings and stuff. But being part of the dice rolling event that is racing, my dice landed on 6 that day and we survived through it.
Yeah.
But that is the only dice roll I'm really that concerned about doing.
Yeah. Everyone's will, or at some point, there's a variation. There's the moon's all aligned in one way, and six will be your day.
Yes.
And that spectrum can shift really fast, and all of a sudden today is your 6.
And again, obviously, James Cowton, bless him, on that day was killed.
Mm-hmm.
But at the TT event 4 weeks earlier, there was 2 dead. Then one at Skerries, William Dunlop, he was killed at the Skerries about a week before the Southern.
So when you're learning about those people, was it just, how did you justify yourself? Was it they just had a bad day?
Well, yeah. It's never going to happen to you. Because if you thought about it, you wouldn't do it. You can't think that every event in the Isle of Man, or every year, on average, 2 people die. Yeah. You wouldn't think, right, of the 70 people here, 2 of us aren't going to go home.
Well, even the stuff that we do in our work, people still die in breathing apparatus, harnesses still fail.
Yeah.
Very, very rare, but the statistic
it
exists because at least one person it's happened to. Some person, they went over the edge, and the system failed, and they just fell, free fall. And
you don't wish it on anyone, do you? But unfortunately, through life, over varying things, like we said previously about crossing the road, someone someday will hit someone crossing a road. No, we're not too scared to cross roads. We're not too scared to ride push bikes, are we?
Yeah. And I suppose, and again, you're obviously very, very proud of what you've done, and so you should be. There's also an aspect of chapters of life. I've owned gyms in the past, and I've done all these other things, and when I've stopped loving it, I did do some things longer than I should have stopped doing some things sooner, because I stopped loving them and I kept doing them, often for financial means. But like with things that I've stopped recently, I've gone, I don't want to do that anymore.
No.
As long as I hated it,
that
I loved
sailed.
it. And I'm in a different chapter of life now. And I'm not going to be that old guy sitting there going, well, in my day, but I'm doing another thing now, like the podcast. I want to go and have that adventure. I want to go and sit with people like you. And I know if I'd have kept doing the thing I did before, I'd never be doing this.
No.
So there's different chapters of life.
See, again, Shona, the future wife, she's got a little girl called Tegan. So I'm now a stepfather, or will be when we get married, but that is a world that I wouldn't have had. I never had any brothers or sisters growing up.
Yeah.
Never had anything to do with kids apart from the odd selfie walking around a paddock with children. That'd be it. So now, normal life, I always deem people who did stuff like this normal people, because we was the silly people who went racing and whatever. Normal life is quite nice. I used to have to watch what I ate, train 4, 5, 6 times a week, cycle 100 miles a week, whatever, to keep the fitness up. So you didn't have anything to do with normal life.
Yeah.
Whereas now, if it's a nice day, you might go on a push bike. If it isn't, then you won't do anything. Yeah. But you haven't got to do it because, and I say normal life is quite nice and enjoyable.
Yeah. But I think you appreciate it more because of where you've been.
Possibly.
As well. You've lived in a pressure cooker.
Yes.
For a period of times. Therefore, you appreciate these freedoms. And that may come full circle, not in terms of racing, but in terms of whatever. You speak about cycling. There may be another there'll always be another chapter of Ivan's life where you go, now I want to learn how to do archery, or I'm going to become an ultra cyclist, or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I think being open to that, and I had it, I was a big, strong, I did all those different sports, and then I did strongman, and I was going to be in charge of strongman, and I did all of this, and and I've got old videos of massive deadlifts and all this sort of stuff. And then
what sort of figure are we deadlifting?
350.
Okay.
So not world record 500 kilos, but 350 kilos is a lot of weight for me.
Yeah.
Certainly nearly, that's a hell of a lot more than I'm lifting now, put it that way. And it was heavily steroid induced, and it was a whole it was a whole crazy world of what I was trying to do then, and this thing that made sense to me.
Yeah.
And again, you hear about the horror stories of performance enhancing drugs, but for me, I was like, yeah, but I'm smart, and I'm taking my blood work, and I'm doing this, and I know people that have been doing it for 50 years, and we all justify our own rationale for it. But there was a period of my life where prolapse disc in my back, tore my whole pec off, cortisone in my left shoulder twice, surgery on both my legs, and I went, I've done this now. I've done this. And I want to be able to, like you're saying that, I want to be able to speak about this after the fact.
Yeah.
I want to be able to sit there and go, you know what, I used to be massive into my weightlifting. Oh, I used to be massive into my racing, and now I do this, or now I do that, or
Yeah.
now I run a podcast. Different chapters of life. It doesn't
Yes.
mean you failed. It
Oh,
doesn't
no,
mean you
definitely
gave
not.
up. It
No,
doesn't
no.
mean any of that shit. Do
No.
you know what I mean? It just means now I'm going to go and have
You've
another
changed
life.
course. The
Yeah.
journey of life, you've changed course slightly.
And I always use the example of my daughter. You know what I mean? She's in year 5 or year 6. I think she's in now. She loved year 5. Year 5 teacher was the best ever. She absolutely loved
Yeah.
it, and she would never want to change. But she's grown. So now she has to go to year 6.
Yeah.
And it's another chapter of her life. And
Yeah.
we're the same. Do you know what I mean? And I think people can get fixed in an identity where if you said, I am motorcycle semi-professional Ivan, then you've got it set in that routine. Whereas if you say, I'm Ivan, and for a period of time I was a motorcycle racer.
Yeah.
Now I'm this.
Did that on the side
and then
for a
I'm
bit.
that. Yeah, and that's it. But who you are hasn't got to be eternally attached to what you do. The what and the how can change all the time. Who you are is entirely separate entity. You know what I mean? You can apply all of this gregarious, and even now, the level of experience and stuff that you have gives you a whole different perspective to be able to speak to people from a place of authenticity.
Yeah.
Because you've been there and you've done it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And now you're taking on these different chapters of life.
No, it is
I love
nice.
that. So, looking at where we are now, you obviously got back to being a fully operational firefighter. Did you want to do that? Was it kind of how long had you taken off?
Oh, no. Like, so I wanted to do that, and I reckon because obviously the racing side had gone by the wayside, and I was back to seaman, so that's sort of ticking the box. The fire service was the last tick in the box to get back to how life was previously.
Yeah.
I needed to do really. Now, I haven't done it because I needed to do it. It was just I quite enjoy doing it. Well, when your alert goes off, someone or something needs you.
Yeah.
And we're just quite fortunate that we'll be in a better position than most to be able to help that people or that thing. And I just quite like that. It's rewarding.
Massively rewarding. Gives you a great sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think it's a wonderful life balance. That's why I think it's so important that things like on-call and retained and stuff still exist, because people who have got a wealth of experience like yourself from industry, from an industry you work in, are able to bring all of that knowledge and experience and perspective. And some of the people that I work with in on-call sectors are leaders of really successful companies, and they just do this on the side. They earn 4 times what I earn, and they do this. And I feel so privileged to be able to benefit from their knowledge, because it's that richness that makes us, we're community service servants, aren't we? And
massively.
if we have those members of the community also part of it, it makes it so much more powerful. Now, I saw you do have a bike down the side of your home.
Yeah.
You do still ride.
Yeah.
When did you first get back on the bike?
It was for a go back to work bike, really, because I used to always have the C90s previously, and then it was, I can get some just for nipping about on.
Yeah. What was it like the first time you got back on it?
Shit scary. I thought because I didn't know how the head would deal with things, whether my balance would be right, whether this was right. I got on it and was... My little bike's only got really small wheels. It's only got 12-inch wheels.
Yeah.
So it follows every track in the road. Like little wheel cars follow... Going down a motorway, it'll just do that, won't it?
Scary. That's what I say about a cat's eyes. It's scary.
But
bumps over.
The bike was doing that initially. I thought, flipping heck, is this me? But then just speaking to people who ride that sort of thing, says, oh no, that's normal. That's okay.
Yeah.
So when you get used to the normality, because you've gone away from a 1000cc bike on slicks that will do exactly what you want because you've programmed it all to do what you want, to riding a little 125 4-speed 12-inch wheeled bike on the road, and it doesn't do anything you want it to do. You're like, okay, so is this my head not allowing me to do what I want to do or not?
Yeah.
But no, it's okay now.
But there's obviously that defiance in you that was like, fuck, just get over it. Come on, fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Just, because you could have easily gone, you know what, this just ain't for me. You could have been me. You know what I mean? I've kept my license, and I like the idea of if I go abroad, I can hire a bike and go out with my missus and stuff like that. But I don't currently own a bike. For me, it was half the faff of if I'm not a hands-on person, I can't be asked to get out and tweak it and play with it and polish it up and clean it and change the thing and do the thing. I'm just like, I'm lazy.
I quite like... I build a lot of race engines for people on the side.
Really?
Yeah. Because, again, back in the day of racing world, when you was growing up, to make it more cost efficient for yourself, I would rebuild my own engine and stuff, because previously you'd send one away and it'll cost 800 quid, £1,000 to have someone else do it.
Yeah.
So I started learning how to do engines myself, so you wouldn't have to accrue that cost.
Yeah.
And following that, there's obviously a few people I help a few local lads just to rebuild their engines for them.
But also, you're like a unique hybrid, because you've got the experience of knowing what they're saying, if you know what I mean. You know what they want when they say this. You've been at those speeds, you've raced at that level. So, with the greatest respect to other people, you've got a different level of authentic. You really know what they're looking for.
Yeah, and they say, the engine's doing this, or what do you think to this? Or it's handling like this, we'll just try that, or whatever. Just making adjustments to it. And I just quite like, do a lot of engine on the side. Quite like, you still like tinkering, so stripping old bikes down, restoring old bikes. I've got an NC24 in the garage, little 400 now that I'm stripping down. Yeah. But I've got someone's race bike that I'm overhauling in the garage as well at the moment.
God, she must love you. And she's marrying you.
Well, she loves me because she can watch what she wants on telly while I'm going, I'm going out, okay,
well,
she thinks, right.
4 hours later in the garage, tinkering.
Or I'll get a phone call saying, tea's made.
Yeah.
So come in and have some tea. Right, see you later.
Better staying in there than down the pub burying your head and wasting money doing
well,
that.
Again, going back to pub world, I can't smell or taste anything.
Really?
Following the crash, no.
Can't smell or taste anything?
No, so I get pissed on water and then end up falling over and then feel shit the next day having drunk loads of water, so...
Christ, do you still drink, even though you can't taste it?
You like what you like and you don't like what you don't like. Yeah. I can sense sweetness. So if you had 2 coffees here, one with sweetener in, one with not, I'll drink both of them, but I can sense sweetness, I can sense saltiness, sourness. So basically, if we go out for meals, I'll put sauce on most things because I sense sauces, because it makes stuff...
So it's something remotely interesting for you. That must be surreal.
Well, it is a bit weird, but... Again, just get used to it. That's life now, so...
Yeah, so food is just function.
Yeah.
So, it's just, if you're not hungry, you don't crave a taste, or you don't crave a...
Yeah, especially in the early stages of recovery, I used to have to set alarms on my phone when it was dinner and tea time, because you don't get hungry.
Really? That could be dangerous.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Just keep going day to day, not eating.
And even now, I... probably a bit lazy with drinking, but you have to sort of program yourself to drink.
Hydration. Yeah.
Because I wake up with an headache. So the second I start getting a headache, 3 pints of water straight off, and then see if that cures it. If it cures it, then it's that. If not, then take some tablets.
Yeah. No, man. Hydration, I always say so many people walk around dehydrated in life because we're just terrible at it.
Yeah.
And I've been for 2 or 3 weeks since I've arrived at your home today, because I'm always like, drink more, and I'm always constantly, I probably overhydrate, to be fair. So I wanted to sort of close up by not doing a blooming community safety piece, but having that thought about what we spoke about at the beginning, about people that see what you've done, and they see the people, and the sport has grown so much, and there's so many bikes on the roads these days. What advice would you have somebody who is a really advocate rider, and they think about getting into this sort of sport? You look back on it fondly with it?
Oh, massively, because it is, especially people in racing paddocks, it's like a family.
Yeah.
It's like being a retained fireman, you go and see your family once a week.
Yeah.
Racing world, every time there's a race meeting, you're seeing the same circle of friends. Although you're battling, you're doing the same thing. But again, if you're mess about, you will make tweaks to try and make your bike better, and then if you make a tweak and it makes you a tenth of a second faster, then you will progress and do another tweak here, and then you see the success of all the tweaks, and it's just rewarding. I find it rewarding. So when you've messed about, you've worked hard all week, you've spent a month's worth of money on something, and then you've done a tweak and it's made it quicker, then it doesn't matter, it's cost you £2,000 because you've gone a tenth quicker.
Yeah. And the sport, to be fair, because it's grown so much and we've got a bunch of sponsored stuff that's been around here, is the sport now still continuing to grow and more sponsors attracted to it?
I would say so, but it is maybe a bit niche market, but it's the same like Formula 1 would be niche. Those Formula 1's a bit standalone. Car racing, whatever sort of racing,
as much as we
think
car racing's staple. It's on the TV all the time. How many people do you know that race? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you might know lots, but for me, I'd be like, I don't know a single person that races cars. So versus how many people I know play five-a-side football or play football. You know what I mean? So it's just because it's a niche doesn't mean it's not a really big and rewarding thing to get into, I suppose.
No. And again, you have companies out there that the managing directors or the upper circle of them are into that sport. So you only sponsor that sport.
Yeah.
And there'll be loads of them people in the world that are into bike racing, into car racing, into five-side football, should we say.
Yeah.
Into going and watching their boys kick a bag of wind about for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
They're into that.
Yeah.
So that's what they go and do every Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously we go to racetracks and watch racing every Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really anymore, but do you know what I mean? Because the following, because who I follow on social media and stuff, are all races. You know what's happened because it's already come on your phone.
Yeah. So what advice would you have to a young person that wants to get into racing these days?
Well, if you want it and have the draw of it, give it a go. That's all you can do is give it a go. If you then get the draw like we've just discussed and want to continue it, then you continue it because you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, if you go out and scare yourself, you're not going to do things your whole life that scare you. You're not going to do things your whole life that you don't enjoy. But if you genuinely enjoy it and get the enjoyment out of it, then continue it. And where the path will lead from there, you don't know. You don't know if there's someone in your village that you live in that enjoy bike racing. Oh, yeah, I'll sponsor you. I'll give you a couple of £100. That'll buy you a set of tyres, which go and do another meeting. Then I used to, again, in the early stages of racing, I used to have a fundraiser twice a year in the local pub.
Yeah.
So you'd go there with a bike on display. I'd be there, obviously, you had videos playing in the background and stuff, but there'd be a big raffle. We'd probably make £1,000, £800, £1,000 every sort of raffle. Yeah. And that would just be given to me, presented to me at the end of the night, and that would be for the next meeting, the next set of tyres, the next engine rebuild or whatever.
Wow. So people don't see the level of commitment that people have to have behind that sort of stuff, though.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the hours of toiling and the hours of trying to find support and sponsors and
I mean, especially when you get drifting up into the upper circle, like, say, British Championship now, there'll probably be only 20 people on the British Championship paddock that get paid a wage.
Really?
Yeah. Everyone else will be either...
Because you got to the level where you were being paid. What do you think riders get paid these days?
Well, no, I didn't used to get paid by the team, but I would have personal sponsors that... You see the helmets there that have visor stickers and helmet stickers, and USN were obviously on board, but they would pay me a wage for product placement or company placement of their companies.
How much can a racer realistically earn these days, do you think?
Well, it all depends who you have sponsor you and how good you get. I mean, there might be ones out there that make £10,000 and that'll be like a fucking... God's earthly amount. Yeah. But then you get the others that will be employed by the teams. Then they also have the personal sponsors. Then they'll be up into maybe figures. And it all depends as well. If you ride for a company and they let you keep the prize money or not, well, that's road racing. British Championship level, short circuit racing in this country, there's no prize money. Yeah. But road racing like the Isle of Man, there would be significant prize money for certain races. So... If you keep that, then that's another £2, £3, £5, £10,000 benefit to you. Mate, it's incredible. Thank you so much for taking time out of your life to sit with us today. You look amazing. You clearly everything's cognitively working. You're running. You've got a growing family. You're getting married. You've been through something incredible, and it's amazing to see that you're able to still do it. No, thank you very much for it. Love that. Thank you for your time, brother. Yeah. The Firefighters Podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.